When I started playing Magic, I had a giant, clunky, ridiculous deck, and I miss it so much. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my 4,000 subscriber special. Good lord, that happened fast, guys. That's like 20 days. I thought it would be like another month and a half before we would be doing one of these moving the guild stickers, but good news is, obviously, it happened ahead of schedule. We will be moving the guilds. Since it is the year of Magic history, the subscriber specials are history themed, but specifically about MTG Purple. So today, we are going to talk about my first Magic deck, from the clunky beginning to the final morphed version of it. Now, I started out with green. That was my color of choice. I really enjoyed the straightforward, like, I'm gonna beat you down and eat your face mentality of green. It's perfectly encapsulated by grizzly bears. The flavor text on grizzly bears talks about how basically they're gonna get you no matter what you do. It's like the grizzly bear is gonna mess you up. You can try and hide up a tree if you want, but all that's gonna happen is you'll get a nice view before the bear knocks a tree down and eats you. And I thought that was a lot of fun. Green's a very straightforward, I'm coming for your face kind of color. Red is like that, but red's more like I'm gonna burn you and do other things. Green is just straight up like, you do what you want, I'm just going to eat your face. That's what I'm here to do. I'm just here to eat yo face. So I played a giant eat yo face green deck. It was what was it, about 120 cards, absolutely 1000% not tournament legal. You want to talk about four ofs, guys? Didn't play with those rules when we started, way back in the day. So I had a crazy deck. Now, I had the cards that you would expect for a green deck back then. Things like Fog to stop all your combat damage. I was a huge fan of things like Desert Twister. Green can't handle a lot of different issues, but Desert Twister is basically a Vindicate, and if you don't know what that is, it's just destroy target permanent. For any, you get 6 mana, sure, it costs 6 mana, but you can get rid of anything on the board. The Desert Twister, absolutely loved it. I had a bunch of grizzly bears, hurricanes to be able to kill the flyers off, war mammoths, iron root tree folks, just all these wonky little creatures. I played with little, like, 1/1s that didn't even really make sense to have in the deck, like Shannon Dryads with their forest walk, but it's like, hey, whatever, all the green guys get in there. And then I had my, like, trio defensive walls, where I had the gigantic, or in the story, you start with the wall of wood, right? You get your 0/3 wall, and that's for 1 green. Then you got your wall of brambles. That's a green and 2 colorless for a 2/3 wall that regenerates for 1 green. And for the same casting cost, instead, you can get a 0/7 wall of ice, and you can see somebody through the silhouette of the ice on the other side. Like, you ain't getting through to me. So it was all about ground pounding. Didn't really have much in the way of dealing with flying creatures except for hurricanes and script sprites. Now, the most ridiculous part of the deck was the core of the deck, and that was the Craw Ring combo, where basically there's this card Sol Ring. I'm sure a lot of you know it, but for those of you who don't, it's 1 mana and it taps for 2 mana. It's obviously a very broken card. So I played about 10 of these, and I had 18 Crowworms on my deck. So almost every game, I would have a starting hand where I would have at least 1 Sol Ring. A lot of the times I would have 2. So it basically could be like, first turn, tap my forest, put out a Sol Ring, tap the Sol Ring, put out a second Sol Ring, and then let my opponent go. On my second turn, put out a second forest, tap all 6 of the mana, and put out the key strategy to the deck, the Crowworm. Oh yeah! 2 green, 4 colors for a 6/4? That thing's massive! How are you supposed to deal with it? And you read the flavor text and it talks about it coming crashing through the forest. Guys, I gotta say, when I started to think about this old deck, it actually took me back in time to the degree, when you travel back into your memories, it comes with more than just the thoughts of the cards. I actually could feel almost like the dampness of the air in the basement of the store that I was playing in, and the smells that accompany it. And I almost felt younger just thinking about this. It's insane the way that the brain works. So it's really cool to have gone back. I played with other funky stuff like Thicket Basilisk as well. I loved that. You could put a lure on it and smash all their creatures away. So that was fun. But it didn't take long before we found out, yo, you're only allowed to play with 4 copies of any given card. And at that point, then we had to narrow down our strategies and play by the rules. So then I ended up playing with a deck with A fast bond, if you don't know about that, it lets you lay any number of lands a turn. It's so broken. You take damage for laying extra lands, but trust me, it makes no difference. A Berserk, because that card's insane. Regrowth to get cards back from my graveyard. And those were the 4 cards in my deck that were restricted, because back then, there were restricted cards where you were only allowed to play with 1 copy of it, and then there were banned cards where you couldn't play with any copy. So the restricted cards were all hella good, and you wanted to get them. They were very swingy cards that would give you a massive advantage. But the core of the deck was built around things like Elvish Archers. They were a massive part of my strategy, because a lot of decks back then played things like Ball Lightnings and Jusum Djinns. Ball Lightning is a 6/1 trampler, and Jusum Djinn is a 5/5 that only costs 4 mana to put out the people with Dark Ritual. And Elvish Archers could handle both of them. Elvish Archers could kill off a Ball Lightning and not even die, and you wouldn't even take any trample damage from it. And with the Jusum Djinn, all you had to do is play a Giant Growth on your Elvish Archers. It's now a 5 power first striker. It kills the Jusum and lives. So Elvish Archers were really important to me. I used to love putting aspects of Wolf on those, or Cockatrices specifically. Cockatrice is ridiculous. It's a Thicket Basilisk with flying. And once you put an aspect of Wolf on it, its toughness starts to get up to the point where it's really difficult to deal with. If they didn't have a Terror or Swords to Plowshares, they literally couldn't handle that. So I played 4 of things like Cockatrice, Aspect of Wolf, still had the Crawworms in for a while, but they slowly got phased out because they weren't strong enough. I kept the Desert Twisters all along because they were really strong. They were in the final build. Giant Growth. I played with 2 Gaia's Lieges because I really enjoyed the fact that in a long, drawn-out game, you could slowly turn all your opponent's lands into forests, thus cutting off their mana supply, and at the same time, giving you a big, beefy swinger to come in with. So I had 2 Gaia's Lieges that I played with. I ran a pair of Hurricanes as both a way of killing flying creatures and as a finisher if we were landlocked and I needed to get the last few points in. I ran the Llanowar Elves, obviously, because they're fantastic. I didn't learn for a while that it would be a better choice actually for that deck to have Birds of Paradise in there, simply because it would give more options for flying blockers, and with the aspect of Wolves, it would also beef up the Birds of Paradise, and Birds of Paradise could be a threat. But I didn't understand enough about the game back then to get that, so my deck and the concept wasn't as tight as it could be. But otherwise, other than that, the only other thing I included was Timberwolves. These guys were amazing. I love them. 1 green for a 1/1 bander, and banding came in really handy. It's amazing on the defense, and it's fantastic on the attack, because you can just swing in with nonsense like, I'll band my Timberwolves and this Cockatrice together. You have to block them or let them all through together, and this thing's got an aspect of Wolf on it, so either take a beat or have all your creatures turn to stone. So cool. So that basically, the end build was like 4 Cockatrices, 4 Elvish Archers, 4 Desert Twisters, 2 Force of Natures, 2 Gaia's Lieges, 4 Giant Growths, 2 Hurricanes, a playset of Llanowar Elves, a playset of Timberwolves, and a playset of Ice Storms, which was green land destruction. 1 green and 2 colors, destroy a land. That was great. I loved being able to go first turn Llanowar, second turn I Ice Storm one of your lands. Setting your opponent back like that was fantastic, especially since back then when we built our decks, everybody used the exact same philosophy of however many cards in your deck, put 1 land for every 2 cards. So if you're building a 60 card deck, it goes 40-20. That's the breakdown. And if you go above that, it goes for every 2 cards add a land. So if you had a 63 card deck, it would be 2 more cards land. So it would be 21 lands. And it went up that way and it scaled. So everybody built that way. But as you can tell now, guys, from what we know, that's not enough lands. If you went now and you built a deck with only 20 lands, the random variants would murder you and you wouldn't get enough lands. So being able to smoke an opponent's land early back then when we didn't understand that you needed to have a better land balance made a much bigger difference. I loved Ice Storm. Plus, the artwork with the Nordic like ice beard, it's so epic. Either way, I hope you guys found this interesting. As a funny little note, I will add a nice little noobish story that happened to me. I cracked out of a pack of legends Vivictus Asmadi, or Asmoody, or whatever you want to call him. Anyways, he was one of the 5 Elder Dragon legends. At the time when I got him, he was the biggest card that you could get out of legends. He was a massive deal. He was worth more than Mox's. People went nuts over him. So I took him and I shoved him into that 120 card green deck that I have. Now look at his casting cost, guys. Look at his casting cost and understand that I only put 3 mountains and 3 swamps into the deck to go with him. All right? That's how badly I planned. As you can imagine, I never really got him out. I got him out one time, pumped him to hell and berserked him, and that was the happiest day of my little boy life. All right, well now we come to the most fun part of these subscriber special episodes, where we get to move the guild. Hashtag move the guilds, as multiples of you have said in the previous one. So this time around, it's the Dimir. We're moving the Dimir down. Let's get ready, Dimir. Popping and locking. Oh, that satisfying snap. All right, Dimir. 4,000 achieved. Yeah, welcome to the Dimir. So it looks like afterwards, the next ones to move down, guys, will be the Boros. So once we hit 5K, we'll move the Boros, and we'll see when that'll be. So thanks for coming by. Thanks for subscribing. At this rate, we'll probably be doing another one soon, my friends. We got another video coming out today, and later on, we're going to do a live stream as well. So thanks, my friends. Have a good one.
And remember, together, we are the sixth color of magic.